Hi everyone, Kate here with the final of my Christmas book tags that I just did a ton of this year. And this is the Cozy Christmas book tag by Call Me After Coffee. So I will link the original video down below in case you want to go see it or make a tag for yourself. But without further ado, the questions are really nice. They are kind of props that you have around Christmas time. And the first is Twinkling Lights. What is the most beautiful book that you own? And most of my books are in storage, but I do have these two here that I can show you. And if you watch my Cloak and Dagger Christmas TBR, you will have seen this. John Saturnall's Feast. First of all, got gold foil on the cover. Also, I love that there are only two colors on this. I think that's something that can make a cover really pop if the color scheme is really limited. And then it does not end there because I want to show you there's an illustration at the beginning of each chapter. They are woodblock illustrations, and so this is the one of the illustrations. I think that is so beautiful. I love it, just the simplicity of it. It's so elegant and just stunning. Then also my Chiltern Classics edition of Jane Eyre. I hemmed and hawed about getting this for a couple of years. And then this year when I was hosting a readathon, I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm getting this. I'm hosting a read along of this. So yeah, it's beautiful, the gold pages, and it even comes with a handy ribbon bookmark. Then question 2, the perfect tree. Will you pay more to get the prettiest edition of a book? I would only do that if it is one of my absolute favorite classic books. Or, I mean, I guess there are some of my favorite books that aren't classics. I just don't know that I would pay more for a pretty edition. It just has to be a book that I'm sure like I'll love 20 years from now. Question 3, build a snowman, make a Christmas book stack, color or theme. I actually can't do that one because so many of my books are boxed up and I wanted red and green books for that. So skipping that question this time. Number 4, crackling fire. What book makes you feel warm and cozy? I have 3 here. The first is the Agatha Raisin series. I can read these just anytime. When I can't read anything else, I can read the Agatha Raisin books. Then The Witch of Blackbird Pond. I hadn't read this as a child, and I'm so happy that I finally picked it up in my 30s. And just, you get such a sense of the inviting feel of the buildings in this, because a lot of it does take place in winter in New England, and it's at a time when there weren't a lot of food resources. It's historical fiction set when there are Puritans living in New England, and just the buildings seem very, very inviting. And then All Creatures Great and Small, the series by James Herriot. Oh, there are so many like really, really just fill your emotional cup up moments in this series. There are some really hard moments, but just they are definitely outweighed by all of the sweet and tender things that happen in this series. And they're based on true events. Question 5, Knee-High Socks. So what is the longest book you've read? And it is without a doubt A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. I don't know if anything will ever top it. It was such a fun experience. I read it with Hillary from Your Robot Friend, who sadly, she's not making booktube videos currently, but we took a summer to read it. So June, July, August. And at the end, we each made an Indian meal, and then we did a FaceTime date. And it was such a fun way to kind of cement our completion of the book. And then, let's see, question 6, ugly sweaters. What's the ugliest book you own? This was the first one that came to mind. I don't own it anymore, but I owned it for a while and it just annoyed me every time I looked at it. It was this edition of David Copperfield, and it made me really not want to read David Copperfield. So I said, enough is enough. If I just am like annoyed every single time I see this, I should get rid of it. And I did. Blizzards, a book set in winter or a book that gives you the chills and has dark themes. So for a book set in winter, I picked Winter Solstice by Rosamund Pilcher. I definitely want to reread this, but I was waiting a few years since I originally read it because I didn't want to read it too soon since I read it. But I love it because it has lots of preparations for Christmas time in it, and it's Rosamund Pilcher. So I just adore her books, and her characters are so near and dear to my heart. And then for one that gave me chills, I read this with Kate from the novel Nomad several years ago. It's called A Sight for Sore Eyes, and this is by Ruth Rendell, and usually I'm used to her detective fiction, but this is a standalone, and there are no police in this, and it is the most terrifying, claustrophobic feeling thing because you're seeing everything play out. This character who is so dark and twisted, and no one is doing anything, and it's awful. It's terrifying. Chapter Question 8, Home for the Holidays. For the rereaders out there, are there any books that feel like going home? And I have 4, and these are all parts of series. Firstly is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. This series, I just want to be on a constant loop of it. I love it. Then Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So this year was the Year of Louisa May project that I hosted with Megan Hannett, and sadly, I have come out of that realizing that basically the only book of Louisa May Alcott's that I loved was Little Women. And that makes me really sad. But also I'm just grateful because it's an amazing book. And I'm just happy that I loved it so much. I reread it last Christmas. I actually toyed around with rereading it again this Christmas, but I will just content myself with watching a couple of the movies. And then the Betsy Tacy series by Maud Hart Lovelace. It was really fun. A couple of years ago, I hosted a read-along with Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and Katie from Life Between Words. It was so delightful, and I've just decided I'm treating myself. 2020 has been a year. So January 1st, I am picking up the Betsy Tacy series and going through them. I don't know how long it'll take. I'm not having any sort of plan or anything to make it feel like a task. I'm just going to savor them. And honestly, I get through each one in a couple days, so it wouldn't take me long to get through the series. And lastly, the Little House on the Prairie series. I have such admiration for just how hardworking and tough the Ingalls family was, because they kind of had to be. They didn't really have a choice. So, you know, they are of their time. There is that, but I think that should not take away from what amazing documentation they are of a certain time in the U.S. Okay, those are all of the questions, and if you would like to answer these, do your own Christmas book tag, cozy Christmas book tag, you are welcome to do so. Consider yourself tagged, and I will be back for another video soon. Bye.